Brace yourself. Can it pass up anytime now? Collect yourself. Does it ever be the same in this sad, sad world? Walk around a lot a bit, trying to make the pieces fit to a puzzle with a million missing pieces. When I'm feeling fine is when I discover that I'm afraid to blow my cover, and there's something very wrong with this. So sit back in your hole.
All right, good morning, everybody. Good to be with you today. We're going to continue and, in fact, conclude the first book ever in the history of ever, the Epic of Gilgamesh. So where we left off, Gilgamesh was so devastated by the death of Enkidu that he sought out and found Utnapishtim, the only human who had ever been granted immortality by the gods. Gilgamesh is having none of this death crap. Miss Rhea, what's up? Somebody who's not the only one doing something right now, help her. What was I saying? Yes, he finds Utnapishtim, the only human being ever granted immortality by the gods. He wants nothing to do with death. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't like it. He wants to know how to beat it. Utnapishtim told him his story. Now, we didn't draw any attention to this, but when Utnapishtim was telling Gilgamesh the story of his own becoming an immortal, even if you'd never read the Epic of Gilgamesh before, did anybody feel like they'd heard that story somewhere before? Yeah? Cameron, where have you heard that story before? Noah's Ark. Yeah, I'm sure for many of us what jumped out are not coincidental similarities, but basically point-by-point plot similarities between the Epic of Gilgamesh and the story of Noah's Ark in Genesis. I wasn't ignoring that. We will look at that in detail on Monday when we look at the Noah story and other flood stories from around the world. So just file that one in the back of your mind. All right, so we're going to pick up where we left off. Utnapishtim has now said, Gilgamesh, I'll give you one more chance. I'll give you one more chance. There is, and I happen to possess it, there is a magic flower deep below the waters. It's thorny. It'll prick you when you grab hold of it, but it is able to turn back time and restore the lost youth to an old man. So essentially, it can make Gilgamesh immortal. All he has to do is go and get it. So let's see what happens. Huh? Oh, yes, I will. Angelica drew this flower. Tyler was telling me to cite my sources for the flower. Yes. Oh, and Maria drew. So Angelica drew the flower, but Maria drew the pink fish. And Angelica's really embarrassed because of how much better the fish is than the flower. That's what you were saying, right? Yeah. And we read. When Gilgamesh heard this, he opened the sluices so that a sweet water current might carry him out to the deepest channel. Let me have my Gilgamesh up here with me. He tied heavy stones to his feet, and they dragged him down to the waterbed. Ooh, let me get some visuals for the people in class. All right, that's you, Mouse.
I'm swimming.
All right, so he tied heavy stones to his feet, and they dragged him down to the waterbed. There he saw the plant glowing, and though it pricked him, he took it in his hands. He was like pantomiming taking the flower when there's an actual flower there for him to take. He took it in his hands. Then he cut heavy stones from his feet, and the sea carried him and threw him to the shore. Gilgamesh said to Urshanabi the ferryman,
Come here and see this marvelous plant By its virtue, a man may win back all his former strength. I will take it to Uruk of the strong walls. There I will give it to the old men to eat. Its name shall be The Old Men Are Young Again. And at last I shall eat it myself and have back all my lost youth.
So Gilgamesh returned by the gate through which he had come. Gilgamesh and Urshnabi went together. They traveled there 20 leagues, and then they broke their fast. After 30 leagues, they stopped for the night. Sandra, come up here, please. Gilgamesh saw a well of cool water, and he went down and bathed. But deep in the pool, there was lying a serpent. And the serpent sensed the sweetness of the flower. It rose out of the water and snatched it away. And immediately it sloughed its skin and returned to the well. Then Gilgamesh sat down and wept. So, sit down and weep. The tears ran down his face, and he took the hand of Urshnabi.
O Urshnabi, was it for that I toiled with my hands? Is it for this I have wrung out my heart's blood? For myself I have gained nothing, not I, but the beast of the earth has joy of it now. Already the stream has carried it 20 leagues back to the channels where I found it. I found a sign, and now I have lost it. Let us leave the boat on the bank and go.
After 20 leagues they broke their fast. After 30 leagues they stopped for the night. In 3 days they had walked as much as a journey of a month and 15 days. When the journey was accomplished, they arrived at Uruk, the strong-walled city. Gilgamesh spoke to him, to Urshnabi the ferryman.
Urshnabi, climb up on the wall of Uruk, inspect its foundation, terrace, and examine well the brickwork. See if it is not of burnt bricks. And did not the 7 wise men lay these foundations? 1/3 of the city, 1/3 of the whole is city, 1/3 is garden, and 1/3 is field. With the precedent of the goddess Ishtar, these parts of the precedent are all Uruk.
This too was the work of Gilgamesh the king, who knew the countries of the world. He was wise. He saw mysteries and knew secret things. He brought us a tale of the days before the flood. He went a long journey, was weary, worn out with labor, and returning engraved on a stone the whole story. Tyler, come join us. You just go stand where I was standing. The destiny was fulfilled which the father of the gods, Enlil of the mountain, had decreed for Gilgamesh.
In nether earth the darkness will show him a light. Of mankind, all that are known. None will leave a monument for generations to come to compare with his. The heroes, the wise men, like the new moon have their waxing and waning. Men will say...
Turn the mic around.
Wait. Who was ever ruled with the might and with the power like him?
Ladies and gentlemen, men, thank you very much. Thank you very much, men.
As in the dark month, the month of shadows, so without him there is no light. O Gilgamesh, this was the meaning of your dream. You were given the kingship, such was your destiny. Everlasting life was not in your destiny. Because of this, do not be sad at heart. Do not be grieved or oppressed. He has given you power to bind and to loose, to be the darkness and the light of mankind. He has given unexampled supremacy over the people, victory in battle from which no fugitive returns, and forays and assaults from which there is no going back. But do not abuse this power. Deal justly with your servants in this palace. Deal justly before the face of the sun.
Thank you. Miles, lie down on the floor. The king has laid himself down and will not rise again. The Lord of Kula will not rise again. He overcame evil, he will not come again. Though he was strong of arm, he will not rise again. He had wisdom and a comely face, he will not rise again. He is gone into the mountain, he will not rise again. On the bed of fate he lies, he will not rise again. From the couch of many colors, he will not come again. The people of the city, great and small, are not silent. They lift up the lament. All men of flesh and blood lift up the lament. Fate has spoken. Like a hooked fish he lies stretched on the bed, like a gazelle that is caught in a noose. Inhuman Namtar, fate is heavy upon him. Namtar that has neither hand nor foot, that drinks no water and eats no meat. For Gilgamesh, son of Ninsun, they weighed out their offerings. His dear wife, his son, his concubine, his musicians, his jester, and all his household. His servants, his stewards, all who lived in the palace, weighed out their offerings for Gilgamesh, the son of Ninsun, the heart of Uruk. They weighed out their offerings to Ershkigal, the queen of death, and to all the gods of the dead. To Namtar, who is fate, they weighed out the offering. Bread for Neti, the keeper of the gate. Bread for Ningizida, the god of the serpent, the lord of the tree of life. For Dumuzi also, the young shepherd. For Enki and Ninki. For Endukuga and Nindukuga. For Emul and Ninmul, all the ancestral gods, forebears of Enlil. A feast for Shulpe, the god of feasting. For Samukan, god of the herds, for the mother Ninhursag, and the gods of creation in the place of creation, for the host of heaven, priest and priestess, weighed out the offerings of the dead. I'd hate to break the rhythm right here, but I do want to point something out. Remember when we first met Enkidu, right? We saw him as the wild man who is savage but also innocent, living in sort of a natural paradise, and we talked about the parallels between that and between the figure of Adam in the Garden of Eve story. We said, well, what was there's a major element in the Garden of Eden story. If I said Garden of Eve, I meant Garden of Eden. There's an element in the Garden of Eden story that we didn't yet see in Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh also has the serpent figure. It's just Gilgamesh places the serpent figure in a different place. But 1 second, I'll take your question, okay? Places the serpent in a different part of the story. So Sandra, the serpent, here is named as Lord of the Tree of Life, just as the serpent in the Garden of Eden saw to it, denied Adam and Eve immortality. That was the result of their eating the fruit. The day you eat this fruit, you will surely die. Serpent Sandra denied that to Gilgamesh by stealing, it wasn't a magic fruit, it was a magic flower in this story, and is the keeper that kept Gilgamesh away from the tree of life, just as the serpent in Genesis kept Adam and Eve from the tree of life. Eli, come join me. So Eli's got a question for us?
So what I was going to say is what I'm seeing a lot is like little patterns of the the following of Christianity, like he's bringing back for the elder, like his Jesus disciples, how he brought back bread for them to like live on with him. So that's what I wanted to call out.
Dude, Eli wins class. Round of applause for Eli. Yeah, so I'm going to say something. Yes, and that is an excellent observation. And even in Jesus speaks of himself as bread of life in the gospel narratives. So that
anyone or anything that eats it will follow along with him through the age of heaven. So
yeah.
that's the same way how he's saying anyone that eats or uses the flour will stay along with me forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you see the same thing going on, and so you can see how those the gospels the gospel stories, and we'll look at some of those in a couple of weeks. You know, the gospel stories are written in late 1st century AD at the earliest. So, and so this is a couple thousand years older than that, and you see how the resonances of things that were first written here continue down to this day, because the words Eli is talking about are still like the most important thing in the lives of many of the people you know, and probably many of the people in the room right now. And so, yeah, I said something, I said this in classical studies, but it applies just as well in here. We're used to talking about, okay, our assignments are mastery and practice, and we use this language because we've been almost criminally conditioned to view the purpose of education as getting you to build particular skills, master this skill, so that you can eventually get the credential, get the job you want, start making money, and be part of this economic machine. Great literature. You don't master great literature. You never master great literature. Great literature masters you. All right? This stuff is inexhaustible, right? Maybe you master ninth grade algebra, all right? You don't master Epic of Gilgamesh because every time you turn to it, you will find something new. And that's true of all great literature. It'll be true of the Arthurian stuff, certainly true of the biblical stuff we're going to look at. Yeah. And like uber true of Homer, who, if you're interested in and are in 10th or 11th grade, take my classical studies course next year. Okay. Gilgamesh, bad news for you, bud. I mean, you already knew this, but Gilgamesh, the son of Ninsun, lies in the tomb. At the place of offerings, he weighed the bread offering. At the place of libation, he poured out the wine. In those days, the Lord Gilgamesh departed, the son of Ninsun, the king, peerless, without an equal among men, who did not neglect Enlil, his master. O Gilgamesh, lord of Kulab, great is thy praise. Ladies and gentlemen, the Epic of Gilgamesh. And there's only 251 days before Jenna Doyley's birthday. I imagine that's why she's not here with us now, that she's out celebrating. So if you see her, be sure to give her all my best. This is before I stop the video here. I got to remember to put this on the screen in the video. This is a statue of Gilgamesh in China. All right. Now, people of China had never heard this story 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. So it just shows that the story has now traveled about as far as one could travel. There is a monument to the first of the great epic heroes as far away as China.
Walk around and light a bit, trying to make the pieces fit to a puzzle with a million bits and pieces. When I'm feeling fine is when I discover that I'm afraid to blow my cover, and there's something very wrong with this. So slip back in your hole, or get back in your cave. If I'm going down, I'm taking someone with me.